Welcome back. In this video we wanted to talk about the event obviously, and I will show you the best budget decks that you can take to this event to quickly finish it. Let's at first look at the loner decks so you can understand which, if you want to just select one of the loner decks, which ones is in my opinion the best one. We have talked about this in the video on yesterday where I showed you the best decks that you can use. You can go check that out. It's in the top right corner. We obviously have Crimson King, which is the Red Dragon Archfiend one. Kind of nice. The Witch of the Black Forest, not really my thing. I would not have played this here. I would skip this one, the Fabled Realm, and then the Earth Arctic. I have to be honest, I can't really give you a good tip on this one. I would guess this is not the best. So if you want to play the synchro part, I would definitely go for this one, the Crimson King, as this should be the strongest loner deck in the synchro category. Let's talk XYZs here, and obviously we also have 3 loner decks. Have to give it to Konami. They just made 9 loner decks for this event. We have Battling Boxer, which I think is one of the weaker ones, especially here in the XYZ category. Obviously, they are supported because they have gotten new support recently, so I guess Konami always does it like this. We have Testina, also newly supported in not the last selection pack, but the one before. I think the Testina one could be not that bad, honestly, also because not a lot of people are aware what Testina even does. So if you can play this deck, if you know how to play this deck, I think you can be quite successful with this one, flipping your opponent's cards face down. It's very funny that they also have the Book of Eclipse in here that can also obviously flip everything face down. Yeah, and you have some nice finishers here. We have, for example, the Gustav Max being able to quickly finish your opponent. So I think in the XYZ department, this is definitely not bad. And then you have the strongest one in the XYZs, I would say, is the Dinosaur one. Obviously with the new card Evolzalas, which is a double effect Omni negate if you make it with reptiles or dinosaurs, which you obviously can. You have the Miscellaneosaurus here, which is definitely one of the most insane cards ever to be printed, in my opinion. This unaffected thing, and then this can also do like a special summon from the graveyard by banishing stuff. It's just insane. Unfortunately, only one ground zero or Xeno in here. I guess you would have liked more of this. This is a really strong one, I would say, and in terms of the XYZ loner decks, definitely the strongest one. And then we can also take a look at the fusion rental decks that you can get here. So I have to say, all in all, the rental decks aren't that bad. They're definitely better than a lot of other rental decks we have seen before. We have a dual avatar side by side, which is gotta be honest, not quite sure what this is doing. I've seen these cards a few times. Definitely one of the weaker decks here that I would not pick if you want to be successful. Then we have Dark World here, which this is quite nice. They recently have gotten the Corridor, the Dark Corridor, and I think Dark World can definitely be quite strong and is also a quite funny deck. The cool thing is that there is no Maxi here in this event, so that means that you can freely, I don't know, summon a lot of things and then basically kill your opponent with that. Unfortunately, we don't have access to this cool hand loop here because there is no silver in here, so that is not going to work. You will have to make do with your boss monster Grapha, which is obviously strong and can trigger stuff himself. And then we also have a Guardian Chimera, very interesting, but I don't know how good that is, to be honest. Even though you can make it with the fusion, it's a bit of a strange build here. You could have definitely made this better, but I guess this is quite an okay one. And then for the one that in my opinion is the strongest, even though it has some really strange cards in here, like the Gazelle King of the Mythical Beast and the original Chimera, the Mythical Flying Beast, which you don't want to go for, is the Chimera one. You also have stuff like the Alpha, for example. You have the most of the important fusion monsters in here. It's a bit sad that the branded part is missing, so if you want to go for a more effective version of this, go check out the video from yesterday where I showed you a branded Chimera list, which obviously is better than this one because there are some really strange cards in here that don't really need to be in here. Hand price is quite okay. You have all the stuff that you need from this core here, so I think if you can get into your main basic play with the Chimera, the King of the Phantom Beast, dropping a card from your opponent's hand and then having your negates like life. That is quite strong, and because the power level of this event is obviously not that strong, this can definitely work. You also have your kill option with the Illusion Beast right here available. So I think the strongest loner deck would be the Fusion one, the Illusion Beast one, and then the second strongest one that you can loan is definitely I have to look again because I already forgot. It's definitely the XYZ one with the dinosaur. So these two are the best ones that you can pick if you don't really want to build any deck yourself or you don't have anything. But I also will show you now two decks that you could also get that are pretty cheap. One, if you have it, is definitely the better one and can be very successful in this event, and you should have it. But let's hop right over into the deck list and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, for the best budget deck that you should have available because of the friend campaign, or also because it's just like an old deck that a lot of people have on their account already, is obviously Swordsoul. The cool thing is that you can play this in the synchro part of the event, which is definitely the weaker part in my opinion. The list could look as something like this. Obviously, as I have said in the video yesterday, the hand traps are interchangeable, so I'm going for Effect Failures, some Ashes, and some Imperms here, and then a Nip. Could also put other stuff in here. You could put more board breaking stuff in here, like droplets and such, but the Gamma, the driver, could be interchanged if you don't like these cards. But I think all in all, this is quite a strong one. You can play some breakers like the Droplet, like the Lightning Storm. We have unfortunately only one Pot of Desires, obviously, which is a nice card for this deck, but we still have a lot of consistency getting to our engine via the Swordsoul Emergence. We have Tayas, we have Moyis, we have the recently, once again, 2/3 Long Yarn. So you will most likely open hands that you can play with, some good hands, and if not, then you have a lot of non-engine in here that you can work with to stop your opponent. You can look at the extra deck here. I put a lot of Baxias in here because yeah, we would normally want more Monk of the Tennies in here, which is definitely the one weak point of this deck. You really want to use your Tennies to make them into Monks, which you can't because they are obviously link monsters. This is the one downside, I would say, but it's okay. The deck is otherwise basically at full power. You have you can play your Psychic End Punisher in here, which will be really hard to out for your opponent, and then other stuff like good extra deck synchro monsters like the Baron, like the Supreme Sovereign, or the Swordsoul Sinister Sovereign. So a lot of you should have these cards available because of the friend campaign, which is why I think this is a really easy to get budget deck that also is available, in my opinion, in a lot of events. So having this deck or getting this deck definitely makes sense when it comes to the power of this deck on the ladder. I think it's also quite okay. It's definitely not one of the most meta impactful ones ever, but still quite strong and can manage its way to Master 1 if you so desire and put the effort into it. So for those of you not aware, and I will quickly talk about another option in a second here, but for those of you not aware, you can get the basic core of the Swordsoul deck via this friend code campaign. And then you get, if one person enters your code, you get basically the complete core here. The most important cards, obviously also the Mystery Shell Dragon, very important one. But you get the most important cards here. You also don't need double Shishao like I had in the deck. One is definitely enough. There are sometimes when you need two, but not always. And if you can manage to get two cores, then you can also get the Shishin Long Yarn, which is quite nice. Everything else here is not that important. So all the other cards you don't really need. You can just craft them because they are low rarity. Getting like 50 gems also not that important, obviously. What's quite cool in my opinion is this thing here, the wallpaper, if you can get it, but it's really not that important. The first and the second step are mostly the important ones, with the first one being the most important one because you get all the Moyis, but yeah, should be available to you and you can take it to the event. The other thing that you could also go ahead and do if you so desire, you might already have this, though it's obviously always, the question is always how much do you want to invest when it comes to these events. The question is, do we want to have more fun and invest some gems and have more fun, or do you want to grind a bit to get the resources but don't invest as much? I'm definitely more a fan of the second camp, don't invest as much and grind. So I would always choose one of the loner decks and grind through the event just to get as many resources as I can. This is like the most free-to-play and efficient way. You could, for example, and this is what I want to talk about, also grab the Ninja Structure deck 2 or 3 times and then go ahead and play the ninja structure deck. This also can work. You can play it the fusion way, because the fusion monsters are definitely the ones that are most impactful. You might have already gotten this ninja structure deck like I did. I I bought it and then I played it once and really disliked the playstyle, but it's quite strong, can definitely hold its own in this event with the strong fusion monsters and the Meisen, the boss monster here. So this is also something you could do for this event, and when the event starts you will definitely find some lists there that run the ninja cards that you can just copy over on Master Duel Meta, of course, which also this one will be quite nice, will be quite inexpensive. The unfortunate thing about the ninja deck, in my opinion, is that there is no staple ultra rare in here. So this is obviously something that makes structure decks really nice if there are some staple cards in here. So for example, was it in this one? It was not in this one, though this could be called a staple. This is also a staple in a few decks, but for example, let's look at a good example. I think the Salamander one is a really great example. We are getting the new Salamander card, so that's also nice. We get a Cyanide Mining, and you also get something like a Heat Soul, which is very nice in a lot of Cyburst decks. The Cyanide Wolf, which is very nice in the current Fire decks. So these decks are definitely something you should prefer over useless decks like the Ninja one. But yeah, you can take these decks to the event and be quite successful. So go for the XYZ deck, go for the XYZ Dino deck, go for the Fusion Chimera deck, or just grab Swordsoul if you have it. As I already said, you can get it for free through the Friends event that is still going on, and there is also not a termination date, at least as far as we know. So this will be the best budget decks that you can use and take to this event. Obviously, keep an eye out for Master Duel Meta, the site, on the release of the event. There will also be a lot of decks that you can just go and copy. I mean, it depends on your collection, basically, what is budget, right? So you could, for example, have access to a really strong deck. It's budget for you because you have all the stuff, but for anyone else, another person maybe would need to craft a lot of ultra rares for this. So it always depends a bit on your collection, obviously. Let me know in the comments what you are planning to play in this event, or what you think of this event in general. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one.